Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Oh yeah, look at my life. Hey now, yeah. Oh yeah, look at my life out here on the road. Oh yeah, look at my life. Hey now, yeah. Oh yeah, look at my life out here on the road.
Hey now! Hi friends, welcome to another episode of Scott Fox After 9. It's Monday, so I'm going to ease into the week here. This is not going to be a particularly long episode. I'm just going to sort of set up the week for you, and wow, there is a lot of stuff going on. Before I do, though, I'm also going to give you a heads up that there may not be... In fact, I know there won't be a full week of pods this week. In fact, this may be the only episode this week. And for that, I apologize. You know, I try and be consistent. I try and bring you a new episode every working day. The thing is, there's been a loss in the family of the radio company that I work for, and it's a pretty substantial loss. I'll talk about that at the end of this episode, because if I do it now, I don't think I'm going to get through the episode. Let's start off by talking about what's happening today in Ottawa. Hey, we're getting a new Governor General. Mary Simon is done her 5 years already. That means Louise Arbour is going to be our new Governor General. She is a former Supreme Court Justice. She has prosecuted war crimes trials for the UN. She is well connected around the world. Let's make no mistake about that. It is really no surprise at all that Mark Carney tapped her to be Canada's next Governor General. Do you know much about the Governor General, though? I want to talk about that for just a second, because a lot of people don't understand what the Governor General is or what this person does. The King, way back when, couldn't be in Canada all the time. But the King, of course, did have to sign off on all of our laws, and if we wanted to do something like prorogue Parliament, that needed approval from the King. So it made sense back in the day to have a Governor General in Canada, who basically had the King's authority in Canada. This person could sign laws and all that sort of thing. Well, it's 2026, and between Zoom and very quick air travel, I don't know that we actually need a Governor General anymore, especially when we have a cost of living crisis in this country, and especially when our deficit is completely out of control. The Governor General makes a salary of more than $370,000 a year. They also get a substantial expense account. They also live for free at Rideau Hall. Rideau Hall sits on 79 acres in Ottawa. By the way, looking after Rideau Hall, a complete and total staff. The Governor General isn't just her $370,000 a year salary. She has quite the staff. She works for 5 years and then gets a pension and an expense account for life. All of her travel, which is extensive, is paid for. We're paying a heck of a lot of money to have a Governor General in this country when, frankly, I don't understand why the King can't just do it himself. It's 2026. Let's figure it out, Charles. Come on. We need to save some money in this country. And frankly, the Governor General, which is basically a patronage appointment, do we really need a Governor General anymore? Hey, if the consensus is that we do, I'll go along with it. It's just as I look at how much money is going out the door every single day in Canada and how little is coming back in, I think to myself, do we really need any additional expenses on the taxpayers, especially for somebody else to live real high on the hog when Canadians are struggling? $370,000 a year, and almost all of it is take home because so many of her expenses are paid for. Now, speaking of things that we're spending an awful lot of money on, how about this FIFA World Cup? The first match in Toronto is on Friday. There's a big concert happening on Wednesday with Wyclef Jean and Bryan Adams. Only one of them is Canadian. I'm really trying to figure out if that was the best Canada could put forward, if the whole point of this is to market our city around the world. I mean, there's very, very, very famous Canadian singers and performers out there. Is Bryan Adams and Wyclef Jean really the best we could do? Or should we be talking to, I don't know, Tate McRae, Celine Dion, Justin Bieber, Drake, The Weeknd? That's a judgment call, I guess. Federal taxpayers, all of us across Canada, whether you live in Toronto or Vancouver or not, whether you have any interest in soccer at all or not, federal taxpayers are paying $104 million for this. $104 million. In Ontario, you're also contributing to the $97 million that the province kicked in. And if you live in Toronto, bam, it's a triple whammy, $178,000.66 million. Total public cost, $380 million for the 6 games in Toronto. $380 million. That breaks down to $63.3 million per match. And maybe you're thinking, oh, the price of the tickets, by the time they sell them all, well, we'll make our money back. No. FIFA keeps the ticket money. FIFA keeps that. We're spending all this money just so that we can say it's in Toronto. And I'm wondering, is it worth it? They say we'll make money back in tourism and things like that. All right, that's a hell of a lot of tourists. And frankly, Toronto Stadium, I almost said BMO Field. BMO Field is typically where these matches would take place. That's where the Argos play. It's where Toronto FC plays, BMO Field. However, BMO apparently doesn't have a deal with FIFA, who seems to be quite the cartel, by the way. And because of that, the stadium that BMO is spending good money to sponsor is now Toronto Stadium generically. BMO's got to be mad about that. I mean, if you pay for the naming rights, you expect people to refer to it as BMO Field. Not when a big event comes in, you get the heave-ho, you know? Well, anyway, we're spending $380 million, but the actual cost is going to be somewhere in and around $1 billion, potentially. And we didn't even get a new stadium out of it. You know, when cities bid on hosting things like the Olympics, part of the appeal is, okay, well, we're going to spend all this money, yeah, but we're going to have some legacy venues that'll be here forever, and we can hang our hats on that. All Toronto did was add some temporary grandstands to the north and south end of the stadium that was already there. I don't understand what we're spending $380 million on. By the way, the feds are kicking in $45 million more for security, at least. These are just the numbers that we know about, and FIFA keeps all the money. This stadium holds about 45 to 50,000 people. It is probably the third biggest stadium in Toronto. Rogers Stadium, the outdoor concert venue. You can get over 60,000 in there if you want to. Rogers Center, where the Blue Jays play. Well, for a concert, they can get about 50,000 people in there. Toronto Stadium is the third biggest venue. Keep in mind, recently, we have had 5 sold-out shows in Toronto at Rogers Stadium within a week for Bruno Mars. Last year, Taylor Swift, 6 sold-out shows at Rogers Center? We're used to moving around more people than this. I can't for the life of me figure out why is there all this hype and all this attention on the FIFA World Cup when it's really not going to bring as many people here as other events that nobody thought twice about. And by the way, this is spread out over 6 weeks. Whereas the Bruno Mars concert and the Taylor Swift concerts, that was less than 2 weeks. I don't think this is going to be the boom that government officials are telling us it's going to be. It seems like we're pissing away an awful lot of money here. Oh, and by the way, in Ontario, you've probably heard me mention this, we now have a law that you can't resell tickets for more than their face value. In other words, you can't scalp tickets in Ontario anymore. You just can't do it. Well, lo and behold, the city of Toronto, as the host city, had the opportunity to buy up 3,500 tickets. They planned on selling them for a massive markup. In fact, they are. The city of Toronto breaking the province of Ontario's law. Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow was on City News yesterday talking about this.
Not one penny of the city hosting FIFA World Cup come from taxpayers. It's from levying the hotel and these corporate sponsorship through the ticket sale, so the taxpayers don't have to pay a dime.
That's just a flat-out, bold-faced lie from the mayor of Toronto. The taxpayers are paying at least $380 million, plus the $45 million that the feds offered to kick in for security, plus all of the other stuff that doesn't get directly billed as a cost of the World Cup. There's a cost to what the armed forces are doing today. There's a bunch of CF-18s and refueling tankers in the air over Toronto right now doing drills in case there's a terror attack and they have to take out a plane. There's a cost to that. Add it all up, it's got to be close to $1 billion. And Olivia Chow is saying there's no cost to the taxpayers. This is all being paid for by corporations. The hell it is. Taxpayers are on the hook for a lot of money, and then we got priced out of even going to the damn thing. There are so many roads closed in Toronto right now. We've been jamming tourists with an extra tax, a FIFA tax, for over a year now, and that's going to continue on for another year. I can't believe Olivia Chow said that. Maybe she misspoke. Maybe she meant to say those tickets that the city bought aren't going to cost taxpayers any money. If that's what she meant, okay, I'll believe that she just misspoke, but that's certainly not what she said. Here's someone who wants to be the mayor of Toronto. Municipal elections are coming up in October. Here's Brad Bradford.
I think that's really disappointing. It's disappointing on a number of fronts. We've seen mayors in U.S. cities that have used their leverage to reduce costs of tickets. You saw the mayor in New York go out and secure tickets for $50 for families, for New Yorkers. And here in Toronto, Mayor Chow is taking the opposite approach. She sees it as a revenue stream to go out and jack ticket prices.
How do you see it any other way? It's the city scalping tickets. By the way, the city has a box for the World Cup. You know how much that thing is worth? A fortune. Apparently, if you can get people with the money that actually want to go. They say, don't worry, that won't be for politicians and dignitaries. That'll be for local community residents. Okay, how are those people going to be selected? Here's one more from Olivia Chow.
We're not doing it for greed. We're doing it to save taxpayers' dollar. It was planned last year, way before the provincial guidelines came in. And I spoke to the premier. He knows exactly what we're doing.
Wait a second. She spoke to Doug Ford about this. The guy who created the law that you're not allowed to make a penny from reselling a ticket is okay with you selling these tickets for thousands of dollars above face value. After he just passed the law and said he might go after go after FIFA themselves. Seriously? I'd like to hear more from Doug Ford on that. Did he really say, okay, no problem. If it's the city scalping, that's okay. But if anybody else scalps, then we're going to jam them with a $25,000 fine. What the hell is going on here? I think taxpayers are going to get fleeced. This was just money wasted. I have no doubt that once the games start, people will come. Some will come. Not enough to recoup our investment here. It's not an investment at all. We just threw money out the door, and everybody in power is going to have a great party, but that's about it. That's about it. The taxpayers are going to get fleeced here. I have no doubt that once the tournament starts, people will get into it. They might even enjoy the fact that it's in Toronto, but at what cost? Seriously, it'll be close to $1 billion by the time all the bills are added up. Friends, this coming weekend, there's a new movie that is going to be in theaters. It's called Disclosure Day. I'm wondering if this is Hollywood doing what Hollywood is told and preparing the public for the news that inevitably the president is going to announce soon. Aliens have visited. Aliens may be walking among us. Aliens may be completely integrated into our society already. Steven Spielberg is responsible for the movie Disclosure Day. He sat down and did an interview on the weekend, and I found this completely fascinating.
Based on the circumstantial evidence of everything that I've gathered throughout my whole life, and everybody I've listened to, and every documentary I've ever watched, and all the testimonies in Congress that I've heard, I absolutely think that they have been here, and they are here. And who knows, maybe they've always been here.
Very interesting comment. Again, I'm wondering, is this just pure cinematic magic? Does Steven Spielberg know something? Or is Hollywood doing what they're told? And were they told to prepare the people for this. Sooner or later, Donald Trump has got to come out and talk about what's been released so far in the UFO files. Is that the moment he's going to tell Earth that everything we've known to be true is a lie? That the reality we thought we were living in, the circumstances around us at any given time, that may not have been an accurate depiction of what was actually going on? Is Donald Trump going to come out and admit that to the people? Might not be Trump. He might not even do it in his term. Could be the next president. Inevitably, someone is going to have to come out and speak to the world and say, we've had contact. If it's just contact, okay, I got a whole bunch of questions. What if it's more than contact? What if it's a full integration into society? What if there's aliens walking among us right now and you don't know who's human and who's alien? There's a lot of people who believe, do you remember that big rush on things like Ancestry.com, 23andMe, all these things? People got real into it for a while. It was a real fad because you could go and track your whole lineage. There's a theory floating around that was not an organic movement where everybody wanted to discover their roots. That was actually clever marketing because somebody, somewhere in the world, wanted to know who might have alien DNA. And they would be able to find that out from so many people doing those spit in the tube and mail it to Ireland experiments. Hey, I have nothing to back that up on, but I see that theory a lot, especially lately. Here's another one from Steven Spielberg.
This truth were just known overnight. If the government announced, yes, we have been keeping this from you since 1947, that would mess up a lot of people. And the movie also takes the position of the church. What does this do to the fundamental beliefs that many of us have? And, is God our God only on this planet? Or is God a God for every system where there's civilization, intelligent life, and even developing life?
That's heavy. That's heavy. The government would likely have been disclosing it, he's right, since about 1947. How far does it go back? Could it have been in biblical times? What about when the dinosaurs roamed the earth? Could this completely change everyone's perception of religion? It's hard to say. I really don't know. It's so huge, I'm trying to wrap my mind around it, and frankly, I haven't gotten very far yet. So much of what we knew or thought we knew may not be true. Here's another one from Spielberg.
It's a movie, and it is, the characters. I wrote the story. The characters and the events in the film are fictitious, of course, but even more than Close Encounters in terms of my own belief system, the credibility and what the movie is about, which is, isn't it about time that we are told what's been happening for the last 80, 90 years in our oceans and in our skies. The movie is built on a foundation of truth, in my humble opinion.
It's wild to think about, like completely bananas to even think about it. What happens if Donald Trump comes out and says, by the way, I'm an alien too? Yeah, just so you know. Here, I'll take my Trump mask off and I'm actually a big reptile. Then what? So much could change when that date comes. And I don't know when that date is going to happen, but at some point soon. I assume Trump is building up to it with the release of the UFO files, this movie coming out, Disclosure Day. I have to assume the actual Disclosure Day is going to happen at some point. Would it be soon? Is soon within our lifetime? I really don't know. And the religious aspect of it is going to be particularly interesting as well. There's a lot coming, friends, and I think it's going to, I'm here for it. I really am.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities, so do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
One more thing I want to play for you on this episode. No, I'm going to do two. Here's the first one. Over the weekend on Graham Richardson Live, I believe is what they're calling this one. Graham Richardson, a longtime CTV reporter and anchor, is now doing a show. And one of the people that he interviewed on his show this weekend was Mark Miller. He is Canada's heritage minister. The reversal on the streaming tax, that would fall to the CRTC, and the CRTC falls under the heritage minister. Listen to this. This is from CTV News Channel.
But the U.S. reaction played a role here. And are we in a situation where before CRTC or anybody does anything, we have to check with Washington? Or am I overstating it?
I think you're overstating it significantly. I don't want to underplay the number of concerns that exist with the U.S. Trade Representative. But the reality is they also took us to court, and those funds have been frozen, several hundreds of millions of dollars, to the point where the funds that should be going into the system are not going into the system and are not supporting the Canadian content that C11, which is a very important law that was passed a few years ago, was intended to affect. So we can all be on the same page as to the principle to support Canadian content, although I know Conservatives don't really care about that.
Wow. Unnecessary pot shot and completely untrue. Hey, here's me. I'm an actual broadcaster directly affected by this, and I am a conservative, and I will debate Mark Miller anytime he wants to talk about heritage and anytime he wants to talk about Canadian content development. I'm here for it, Mr. Miller. Call me anytime. I'll meet you anywhere. Turn the cameras on. Let's have that debate if you want to. The reality is Canada has a really, really misguided system when it comes to Canadian content development. You know, for a long time, broadcasters had to pay into a fee. They still do. It is a tangible portion of a broadcaster's revenue contributing into this system to develop Canadian content. Well, I still want to know, where is all that Canadian content? Because every time I watch network television in Canada, I see American programming. I see American sports, American award shows, American sitcoms. I see American, you name it. That's mainly all it is. And I'm sure we can all think of a handful of examples of good Canadian shows. But is that enough to justify the amount of money we're spending here? And how do upcoming or aspiring Canadian artists get their cut of this money? I'd like to know a little bit more about that too. Who decides how much they're going to get? What are we funding here? If a multi-millionaire, maybe even a billionaire at this point, if someone like Drake wants to make a music video, does he get government funding to do that? You know, I have a lot of questions about the Canadian talent development. But one thing I would say is we live very much in a world where you can get whatever you want, wherever you want, and you can skip over anything you don't want to see. So, you know, constantly forcing Canadian content down people's throats, that's not going to work. That's still to this day what happens on radio and television, by the way. Most radio stations are mandated 40% of their playlist needs to be Canadian artists. And then they get real picky. Some of the artists that are obviously Canadian don't count as Canadian. Celine Dion songs, they don't count as Canadian. There's some Bryan Adams songs that don't count as Canadian. It's a crazy system that we have. Tried to force it down people's throats. I think somewhat to the detriment of our broadcast system. Then the digital era unfolds. And what does this government want to do? They want to do the same outdated model. They want to force streaming companies to hand over a significant portion of their revenue and pump it into this weird system of Canadian content development. Again, where's that money going? How much is too much? This would have been in the billions. How many billions do they need to set up a TV show that actually serves Canadians, or a TV network that serves Canadians, to create productions that Canadians want to see that are based in Canada? I have so many questions. I don't think taxing foreign streamers is the way to fund the system. It's very easy. In an on-demand world, if somebody wants to create talent, if somebody wants to create content here in Canada, put it out there. If there's an audience for it, they'll make a lot of money. Put it out there. You know, between the ability to monetize streams, the pay-per-view options, if it's good, people will pay for it. We know that. We see it all the time. Where's all this money going? And why are we still trying to shake down foreign streaming giants to fund the inadequacies of our current system. It's bananas. One more. President Trump sat down and did an interview yesterday with an interviewer named Kristen Welker. And I don't know a whole lot about Kristen Welker other than she's on NBC's Meet the Press. This one got ugly.
The election was rigged. It was a dirty election.
Mr.
And it's
President,
happening again right now in California.
You've never presented evidence.
It's happening
that the
right now in
2020 election
California.
was rigged.
Right now, it's look at what's
Where's
happening in
the evidence
California.
to that?
It's
the
4
Republicans
days.
are doing well in
California. It's no, they're not. They're dropping fast because it's a rigged election. Let me tell you, it's 4 days, and they aren't even close to coming up with it.
That's how they count.
You know
the
why
votes
they're doing
in
that?
California.
Because they're cheating on the election.
Do you have evidence to support
all
that?
I have to do is look. All I have to do is look.
That's not evidence.
And I listen to people, and let's see what happens.
But, sir, that's not evidence.
Do you think it's appropriate?
That's how they count the votes in California.
Do you think it's appropriate that they have an election and 5 days later they're nowhere close to picking a winner?
State and local officials acknowledge they are slow. They're urging.
No, they're crooked.
They're urging the votes to be counted quickly. That's how they vote in California.
They're crooked, just like you're crooked. Your press is crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked.
To be fair, I'm not crooked, but let's
Really?
Let's
Well,
continue.
you play right into their hands.
Let's continue.
You're either crooked or you're stupid. You play
continue.
right into their hands with this rap. You know that these elections are rigged. Your network knows that they're rigged. You know that I won an election in a landslide, and I got 94% bad press.
But, Mr. President,
you know why I got
never
that?
Presented
because you have no
evidence.
credibility.
But you've never presented evidence that it was rigged. Let's keep talking about. I want to talk about Todd.
You
Blanche.
have more evidence. There's more evidence than ever presented.
Let's talk
Your
about
elections
you
in
went
this
to
country.
court.
We're like a third world country.
But, sir,
your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked,
Mr.
and so
President-
is ABC and CBS and CNN.
But, Mr. President-
You're one-sided crooked networks. All right, let's call it quits because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. President, let's please. I traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
I've sat
I traveled
in the rain with
all.
you.
I know.
I've sat in the
traveled
rain
all the
with
way
you
to
for an hour,
Wisconsin.
on and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time. You ought to straighten out your press because you know what?
Mr.
A
President,
country can never be
We
great
traveled
with a dishonest
Listen,
press.
we
Come on, let's
traveled
go.
all the way to Wisconsin.
That's how it went. Hey, listen, I totally get that President Trump feels those elections were rigged. I get it. And frankly, there is so much evidence to suggest that, in particular, the 2020 presidential election was completely rigged. Joe Biden got more votes than any presidential candidate in history, and it wasn't even close. It doesn't add up. There's a number of elections that don't add up. In fact, there's a few Canadian examples that, in my mind, don't add up. You have to come to this with evidence, though. What President Trump is using there, or what he did there, falling apart like that, that's what's getting all the attention. Here's crazy, irrational Trump. And maybe he is crazy, maybe he's irrational. I don't know the guy. But one thing I'll say is that doesn't help the cause. Somebody needs to sit down and clearly and articulately present the evidence to the people so they can see it's rigged. Now, President Trump is quite right. What they're doing in California right now is shocking. I know it's not exactly apples to apples, but somebody pointed out last night, American Idol can count 145 million votes in an hour. How is the state of California taking 5 days to count up votes? What are these late night ballot dumps that are coming in again? All these overseas voters or absentee ballots. It's crazy. They're trying to rig elections. This stuff has consequences because we all know what happens when you live under a bad government. We all get it. All right, friends, I'm going to wrap it up for today. That was Trump. I said at the beginning I would let you know what's going on, and I will now. I don't know if I'm going to do an episode tomorrow. In all likelihood, I won't. I got to clear my head. Over the weekend, I got some sad and tragic news. We all did. That a friend of mine, and a really, really good friend of a lot of people that I work with, passed away suddenly on the weekend. If you are a listener of the station that I work on in Toronto called Z1035, you may be familiar with DJ Drew Suriano. Drew came to the company, the radio station, when I was doing mornings with Dave Blizzard and Melanie Martin. Drew came in then as an intern. That was over 20 years ago. Over those 20 years, Drew had worked his way up through the ranks to become, in my estimation, he's the best wedding DJ I've ever heard. I've been at a number of weddings with him, and I don't think anybody does it just like Drew does. He had a knack for it. But beyond that, he worked his way up in radio, and he became the assistant music director and the assistant program director for a major radio station, Z1035. And he did it by the time he was 40. Over the weekend, it's real when you got to say it. Drew passed away. I'm hearing a lot of stories lately of people that went to the hospital because they weren't feeling well and were dead within 48 hours. And that's basically what happened with Drew. Nobody expected this. He was only 43 years old. He's got an amazing wife and 2 young kids. And he passed away on the weekend. It's a huge loss for Toronto radio. It's a huge loss for myself and my colleagues at Z103 that knew and loved Drew for so many years, over 20 plus great years, great memories with Drew. So I'm going to be attending some funerals this week, more than one. It was a horrible weekend, actually. A couple of people passed away that I'll definitely be at their funeral. So the rest of the week is not necessarily going to be a happy one. I don't know that my head's really in the right space to be doing pods like I was doing today. I'm going to clear my head. I'm going to take the rest of the week off, I think. I'm just going to decide now. I'm not going to do an episode tomorrow or the rest of this week. I'll see how I feel on the weekend. Maybe I'll do a bonus episode or something. Otherwise, I'll just get back to routine on Monday. So, friends, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it. And for being patient. Monday, we'll say next week, I'll resume again with new episodes of Scott Fox After 9. In the meantime, I'm just not there, you know? So have a great week, and tell the people around you how much they mean to you, how much you love them, especially your kids, especially your partner, especially your parents, because you just never know.